The film recap opens on May 13, 2022 with the introduction of Miles, the owner of a large corporation. He sends a special puzzle box to his 5 friends as they get it, solve it, and finally open the box. In it they received a card sent by Miles, who called them to River. It was an invitation. Miles wrote that I will play a game with you called Murder Mystery when you all come. Then an old man shows up who is a clever detective, and along with the card got the puzzle of Miles. It was a party and he must come at any cost. In the next scene all his friends get to the river, the place they called Miles. Miles' friend, who was a fashion designer, brought her companion. His YouTuber friend brings his friend, and among them all was an old company worker named Andy. When they see her, everyone becomes surprised because Miles terminated her years ago due to an argument. Miles sent a beautiful ship for them to take them to the beautiful island of Miles called Glass Onion. They get to the island and it was a beautiful scene. Miles met them and showed them the island. After seeing all this, they go to rest in their rooms. Later, Miles takes the detective to his room and asks, "What is he doing here? Because I did not call you here, nor did I send you any invitation." At that, the detective shows him the card and says, "Send it to me in that box. If you didn't call me here, maybe one of your friends will fix the puzzle box and send it to me. Maybe they did it for fun." And Miles says it's good. How good it will be to have a famous detective like you in my murder mystery game. Now they go to the pool to have a good time, and Miles' friend YouTuber says, "When I was moving last week, Miles was also driving somewhere, but he was driving fast, so fast that he didn't see me. He was almost going to end me." After resting in one place, the detective asks Miles how he and his friends became so successful. Miles replies that the wisdom behind it is that no matter what it is, start small. This will grow with each step over time and implement what we are successful at today. Meanwhile, Andy, an old company worker who was terminated by Miles, arrives. He tells the detective Miles answered wrong because they are successful today because of Miles, when he helped them with the wrong tasks, and she leaves after this. Now fashion designer friend Miles' friend reach Miles and says, "You asked my friend to give false statement, but I don't want her to do any wrong task, because all the media and channels are already against her, but Miles says it doesn't hurt me. I asked her to do it. She has to do it," and the detective heard them from a distance. Now the YouTuber is shown exploring the island, but then sees her boyfriend marrying Miles. It means that there is something between them and the girl is cheating on him. He is sad and does not say anything. The detective was also watching all this. Miles threw a party for them at night and tells them while showing the real painting of the Mona Lisa that I brought it from the museum, and then I give the detective a small piece of the chemical. It was like a crystal, but it contains many powers. It has fuel and energy, which means it can produce fire as well as electricity. There is also danger due to its use when Miles tells him that I have many chemical crystals like this. Therefore, I will call famous leaders from all over the world and tell them about this chemical. I'll tell them my company found it using salt water. And when this chemical becomes famous, its demand will increase. My company will also have its benefits. Its huge advantage is that it can generate electricity and can also work with electrical objects." Meanwhile, a friend of Miles who was a scientist for his company stops him and says, "Look, his search is not finished yet. Our company's scientist needs time to search it. It will be dangerous if you use it." On it, Miles says, "Nothing will happen, be patient, you may not know this island is working on it." As they sit at the dinner table together, Miles says that now you all have to play a game called Murder Mystery. As I told you before, and the game is I will be fake murdered and one of you will be the killer. You have to find the killer. But the detective immediately says that the killer will be a fashion designer. Miles doesn't like it, so he calls the detective separately and says, "Why did you say that? You destroyed it before the game started." On it, the detective says, "I said it differently, that every person who comes here has a reason to terminate you, and maybe your life will be in danger and fun." But Miles asks and is surprised that all my friends are my companions and work for my company, so why are they terminating me? The detective says your scientist is not happy with you because you're working on that chemical even though he forbade you. That politician friend you're threatening, that if he doesn't pass this chemical project, you will make someone else win the election. Then your fashion designer friend, she doesn't want to and neither does her friend, but you still lie to her in front of the media. YouTuber finds out there's something between you and his boyfriend, cheats on him with you. If we are talking about your old friend Andy, she is your old enemy. That means your friends are your enemy for some reason. Miles shows the detective a picture of his friends, and underneath the picture was a handkerchief. And there was a sketch made with a pen. When he saw it, he said, "I got the idea to start my company in a bar. It's called the Glass Onion, and I named my island after it and wrote that planning on a tissue." It's the same one I've carefully kept to this day. On the other hand, Andy has a falling out with the YouTuber, so he leaves. Then Miles and the detective arrive, but the YouTuber's phone starts ringing as he receives messages from Google. He is surprised to see them, but then starts laughing as he shows these notices to Miles. Miles is stunned to see the announcement and immediately hugs the YouTuber and asks him to shut up. And after him, he declares that he is appointing the YouTuber to a leadership position in his company. He can earn a decent amount and the YouTuber is happy to hear that. Now the question is, what were the announcements that Miles changed to offer the YouTuber a leadership position? Why did he get scared and what did the YouTuber want to hide? We'll find out later. The YouTuber was happy, so he took the juice offered by Miles, but soon he started having trouble breathing and dies on the spot. Everyone gets scared by his sudden death and suspects Andy when she disappears before the party, and Miles sees the glass in which the YouTuber drank. He sees his name written on the glass, which means the killer wanted to finish me off, but he died. The strange thing was that the weapon and cell phone of the YouTuber also disappeared from there. Suddenly the light of the whole island disappeared and everyone panicked and started running. Meanwhile, the detective goes outside and meets Andy and also tells her about the YouTuber's death. She is also surprised and worried about his sudden death, but then someone shoots Andy and ends it. With that, the scene cuts to the past when Andy's twin sister came to the detective's house to talk to him. Here we find out the surprising fact that Andy died a week ago, and it is said that she ended up alone. Andy's twin sister tells detective, I read Andy's diary and found that there was no tension in her life. And she was happy. Why would she end up with herself? Even everything was fine. That's why I suspect her friends. One of them ended Andy and later made her murder as if she ended herself. So keep this box and find the killer. Because all her friends will go to Miles later. She first tells my sister Andy got the idea to start the company, not Miles. She wrote her plan on a tissue. But after 2 years, a fight broke out between them over a chemical. She did not want the chemical to be used, so Miles, with the help of his friends, falsely claimed in court. But Andy just had the handkerchief to prove that she had unfortunately disappeared somewhere during this case. Then Miles made the fake handkerchief as Andy and my sister lost the case because of it. One day, Andy found the real handkerchief and then took a picture of it when he put it in an envelope. She shared it with all her friends except Miles to prove it was Andy's idea. But then the next day Andy died and the real handkerchief also disappeared somewhere. The detective realizes that among Andy's friends is someone who is her killer. That's why he says to Andy's sister that I will find her killer, but you will also come with me as Andy to Miles Island. So you're going to spy on everyone and give me information. And then she came to the island as Andy with a detective. He overhears a conversation between a scientist and a politician while spying. The scientist tells when the chemical is used, it releases a poisonous gas that is dangerous to humans, and a politician says I would never pass a project on this chemical. I didn't agree, but because Miles insisted, I have to complete this project. Because if this project stops, Miles will bring someone else to me and I will be devastated. While spying on the fashion designer, Andy's sister discovers that Miles was actually going to give her money. So he gives this false statement that the idea to start this company is Miles, not Andy. She discovers that the YouTuber intentionally asked her boyfriend to set up a relationship between her boyfriend and Miles. So he gets a leadership position at Miles through his friend. That said, everyone supported Miles because it has its own benefit. Andy's sister went to the detective to tell Miles the truth, but the YouTuber and the politician arrived. And the politician who considered her Andy says, listen Andy, why are you angry with us? Me and the scientist came to your house when you sent the picture of the cover. The YouTuber was already there, knocking on the door, but no one answered. When we were leaving, a fashion designer came to your house, but even then no one answered the door. Then Andy's sister tells all this to the detective that when Andy emailed them to prove herself, her friends came to meet her. But no one answered the door, and knowing this, the suspected detective withdrew from her friends. When Andy's sister left the party after the fight, she searched everyone's rooms, but nowhere could she find the envelope containing the real handkerchief. Well, this was a story from the past, and we see that in the present, someone ends Andy's sister by shooting her. But luckily she escaped because she always keeps Andy's diary, and the bullet stuck in it. She faked death because the detective asked her to so they would feel like she was dead. When she gets a chance, Andy's sister goes to Miles' room, and when she checks, she finds the envelope behind the picture. Here it proves that Miles ended up with Andy. The detective tells Miles, I found out you mixed pineapple juice in the YouTuber's drink. How did you know he was allergic to pineapple and died after drinking it? Meanwhile, Andy's sister arrives, and she had the right handkerchief, and the detective says when Andy emailed you about the copy idea. The scientist sent the email to the scientist. This makes Miles furious that he went to Andy's house. Miles murders her when she reaches out and promptly leaves after stealing the handkerchief. He was going fast enough to crash into a YouTuber. He told us while we were at the pool. When the YouTuber received the Google notification, he actually found out that Andy had died and suspected Miles when he saw him leaving Andy's house. He then started blackmailing Miles by telling everyone he was done with Andy. Otherwise, give me see your post in your company. Sister Andy shows Miles a real handkerchief and underneath it was the logo of the Glass Onion bar. Does that mean it was the handkerchief of the bar? He says, weren't you amazed when you saw me looking just like Andy? She says I am her twin and the bar you are talking about closed 9 years ago. Your tissue was made several years ago and does not have the Glass Onion bar logo on it. Your handkerchief is fake and this is real, but then Miles burns the handkerchief and says you found out everything about me. But unfortunately you have no evidence against me that I did all that or that I ended Andy. Now everyone even knows Miles' truth, but they decide to support him and refuse to testify against him because if they go against Miles they will lose. Andy's sister was sad, but the detective told her that there was only one way to destroy Miles. Let's break all his precious belongings that are placed here, and when Miles has nothing, his friends will go against him. As he leaves, the detective puts a small piece of the chemical on Andy's nurse's hand that Miles gave him. After that, Andy's sister starts to pick up all the things and then set the place on fire, but Miles was still normal. He felt that everything was fine, but then she showed Miles the small piece of chemical. And when they see it, everyone freaks out, including Miles, and panics because this piece is full of fuel and energy. When she threw the piece into the fire, there was a huge explosion that destroyed and burned the entire place. The detective sat outside watching and enjoying it all as he saw the destruction of Miles. They all get out before they get burned and Nurse Andy says, Miles, you've lost and you've got nothing left. Now seeing how Miles is destroyed, his friends agree to make a statement against him. It means Miles ended Andy and YouTuber. The result of evil and greed is worse here. This film recap also concludes.